Hi Lucie, and welcome at our Konferenz Home Like Hospital Birth. And at the beginning, please tell us some words about yourself, what you do, why do you do that? So, my name is Lucie Kašová, and in September it was 35 years since I've been working as a midwife. I started in 1986. So quickly gone these years, and I have started in the University Hospital in Plzeň. I've been working in perinatal and gynecologic obstetric center, and I've been working there for 17 years. Out of that, 13 years in delivery suite. Then for 13 years I've been teaching in Department of Midwifery at Plzeň University, the Faculty of Healthcare Studies, and I've been a teacher of midwives. And in 2015 I applied for a registration to be able to provide services in midwifery, and I started to work in community, and I'm working there till now. And what made you to take this job, to change your position? You had a comfortable position in the university and you switched to really difficult work of a community midwife. Well, I've been a leader of the Department of Midwifery about 8 years, and somehow it happened that my teaching hours were much less than my administrative work, and somehow the women and the babies stopped being a part of my life, and I missed that. So for 1 or 2 years I started to work a part-time in university, and I had already my maternity center, my midwifery center, but it was not possible to do 2 jobs in the same time, and so I opted for community care, but I'm still teacher, but only part-time. So you work as a community midwife, and what do you see the biggest challenge for yourself for community midwives? What is attractive about that job, what is fine, and what brings you some reward, and what is a challenge? Please tell me, how do you feel about that? Well, I always wanted to be a midwife, and I always wanted to work with women. Many students who were applying for becoming students of our university, they said, well, I would like to work with babies. But this was not my motivation. I always wanted to work with women. And not only during the birth, but for the whole reproductive life of the woman, even post-reproductive life. And to be present as a midwife at birth, it's really an honor. It's an honor. It's something wonderful to be present at a birth of a new life and to support the woman and to be allowed to be there. That's really something. So you are a master of midwifery, you've got university education, but as a community midwife, do you think a community midwife needs any special education? Do you think that there is something special needed, any upgrade of education? Well, education, midwifery education is very important. I would say the obligatory education of midwives so that we can work as midwives. Now in these years it's 3 years bachelor education, but that is not the end really. The school will not give you sufficient amount of knowledge, of skills, and the whole life education is really important. And as I said, I'm in practice for 35 years and my education is not finished at all. I'm still participating in seminars and I'm still learning and getting new knowledge. Yes, it is very important to have the whole life education. And in the same time, it is very important to the self-reflection is really important. It is important to think about the success in your work and also about making mistakes. I don't mean fatal mistakes, but we are people, human beings, and it's normal to make mistakes. But it is not good to repeat the same mistake. So it's always good to think about what I'm doing, what was good, what was not good, and what could I do better next time. And the courses helped me and others. So, well, as you say things like that, as you say so, we've got professional associations, and still the midwife, when she attends a home birth, she is alone. And is there anything, any group, any focus group that you may join? Can you share with others? Is there a case study group, or is there anything like that? Well, when I started to work in community environment, I really felt lonely. Really, one needs to share the joys and the success, but also opposite. Sometimes you don't succeed, or sometimes things are not perfect. So, but you need to share them too. I'm a member of UNIPA, which is Union of Midwives Professional Organization, and this organization offers supervision to its members. And I must say that supervision is something that helps. The group supervision, and when I went through a difficult period of time in my practice, I also had individual supervision. And this should be basis, that should be normal in healthcare professions, and especially if you work on your own, you are alone in the practice. Yes, so you would appreciate that. Okay, and the ones who are not members, how is it with them? Because not all the community midwives are not members of UNIPA. But as far as you know, well, I don't know. I've been searching a lot. I've been searching for a close soul who I could trust and who I could say also the things that I was not happy about. And what all items does the community midwifery include? What do you do? Well, we have legislation in Czech Republic. And as to legislation, we've got the law 96 from the year 2004 summarizes the competences of midwives and what a midwife must do to be able to work autonomously. Then we have the regulation 55 from 2011, and here the competences are clearly announced. Our paragraph is the paragraph 5, and we can read about the activities of midwives. So a midwife can take care of physiologic pregnancy and healthy births, physiologic births. We can give advice to women. We can take care of women. We can conduct births, lead the births, physiologic births, I mean. And if there is some risk arising or pathology, we will transfer the woman in the doctor's hands. And if the midwife works in a hospital. She cooperates with the midwife cooperates with the doctor, but she can still care for the same woman, but in cooperation with the doctor. But community midwife can autonomously care for healthy cases, mothers, birthing mothers and babies. Are there any limits in your practice or in midwifery practice? Well, it's a question. This question should not be focused on midwives or given to midwives, but to administration. Every midwife who works in community service, she must have registration. She must be allowed to work. And there are regional offices who do not offer such a permission. And some regional offices, some regional institutions would not limit the midwifery work anyhow. It's the case of Plzeň, but some would limit the work of midwife, and they would not allow her to do the physiological birth, to conduct the birth on her own in-home environment. And this is the problem. Some regional institutions will give you the permission, but will scratch out the F point. That means will not allow you to lead the birth. And the midwives who've got limited registration, they should not be home birth midwives. But it's still a question whether the regional offices can limit something which is given by the law. And as I said, I have got my registration without any limitation, and in spite of that, I had a control, I had a check from the regional office and from the regional administration, and they wanted to see all my documents, the whole documentation, where I have assisted a home birth. And I must say and emphasize that there was no mistake, nobody complained, no woman had any trouble, and still, although there was nothing I could be blamed of, they said that I have over-exceeded my competencies, and in spite of the fact that the law allows that they told me that I did a sin because I assisted a home birth, and they said that it is because the ambulatory or outpatients care and the home care in their eyes was associated, and the regulation from the year 2014 makes difference between ambulatory care, outpatient care, and home care. They say that the people working in these two fields must have different equipment. And that's why the court said that I made a mistake because they made these two items one. And they developed some new kind of registration, which you can't read in any law, really. And I always was documenting everything wherever I went to assist at home birth. I made notes. I officially gave them to pediatrician, or if I needed to transfer the woman, I noted everything and gave it over to the staff. So no mistake, in fact, but the authority still gave me a fine of 100,000 crowns because they explained the law, the text, a different way. And because the legislative explanation can be explained, the legislative, texts can be explained different way, I was fined. So it is up to discussion of lawyers, not about the midwives, to discuss this point. Well, but I think it is a very important thing to discuss. You are practice for 35 years, but imagine that a young midwife who may have like 5 years of practice or not even, and she would meet such a problem, she probably would leave midwifery work. And in the same time, women would have the right, the right for informed choice. And because we do not have enough midwives, they are not able to find a midwife. And in the same time, they are not able to find a hospital with practices they would like to have or they would choose. So that's a big problem. And there is another problem. Some midwives, because they are afraid of the court case, hide, and they say that there are doulas instead. Well, I know about 2 midwives who ended up with that practice because of this situation in Czech Republic, and it is very difficult, really. Women do have the right for informed choice. It's just human right. The woman can choose where she wants to give birth. She can even choose her home, her own home. And in the same time, they would have right for a professional by their side, because the professional should be able to tell them whether everything is okay or there is some risk arising. And there are women, or I'm addressed by women, by 3 types of women. So one of them have some specific style, specific lifestyle. They are really deeply connected with nature and bound to nature, and usually they are university educated. They know a lot about the birth, and they just want to have their birth in their hands, and they want to give birth at home. Then there are women who do not know too much about the birth, and they would follow a fashion or life approach. If I give birth at home, I'm a better mother. Nothing else is leading them. And then there is the third group of women who have really very unpleasant experience from the past birth, from the previous birth, and they gave birth in a hospital, and they experienced like obstetric violence. And these women want to give birth at another place, and maybe their first option would not be home, but as we don't have birth houses or midwifery units, they have no other choice. They just are afraid to go to hospital, and they have no birth house in our country or midwifery unit. They have just no chance. They really would appreciate a midwifery-led care, and it is important that the woman would feel safe, and she should then choose a facility which she would like. Home birth is in a kind of gray zone, and the conditions for home birth are unclear, and the competencies are unclear in this country. So sometimes doulas would assist home births, and sometimes midwives. Midwives should not hide behind doulas. Once you are a healthcare providers, and you can't say you are not. You have special responsibilities, and you are responsible for care you provide. But many women would also choose not assisted births. And I don't see it as a good choice, I think it's dangerous. Yes, so our state would say no home births, and our state would say no birth houses, and the condition given by the state is impossible to overcome. It says that at every place where the normal birth is conducted, a gynecologist must be in 5 minutes physically present. And, we can't fulfill this condition. So our non-governmental organization, Birth House Talk, tries to push forward a project of family birthing rooms in hospitals. But the hospitals are not willing to cooperate with community midwives, or the conditions they set can't be met. So what experience do you have with cooperation with hospitals? Well, of course, also in my practice, I meet women whose health history would not be encouraging for home birth. And sometimes I feel that in last pregnancy, they really were injured a lot, psychical or physical injury, and they really don't trust the hospitals. I accompany them to hospitals so that they have some support. And I must say that my colleagues really, do not behave well. They do not behave nice to me. They would tell me, well, you are here as a doula, do not discuss anything with us, do not give us any advice. And although I know a lot about the woman I accompany, I know why she is afraid, I know about her health history, I know about her trauma from the history, and I do not have a good experience with the maternity hospitals. Really, the attitude and approach of the midwifery staff and the doctors. Yeah, and I see manipulation in hospitals. And as I'm a midwife, and 13 years, I have been working 13 years in delivery theatre, I usually see where the manipulation is going, and I really don't feel fine in this environment. No, I don't feel safe. And sometimes I have a feeling, that I betrayed the woman. I was not able to help her in that environment, to protect her. And this was the reason why I decided not to accompany the woman to these aggressive maternity hospitals. But in my close environment, I do not have any nice and kind maternity clinic. I know that there are some clinics of this kind. I know that there are maternity hospitals where mothers are really very happy. I know that a woman can have a very nice birth in a hospital, but I feel that I would be not helpful to the woman in a hospital which is not kind and which does not recognize me as a midwife, would not be happy. They would feel offended, and they would say, well, we are good, the same good as you are. Do you need does the woman need her own midwife, and why? And well, for the women, it is sometimes very important to have a continual care. Sometimes women search for midwife even before they get pregnant. Usually they address me in the first or second trimester, but I also know women who have searched for my care even before pregnancy. But to give you a direct answer, no, I don't cooperate with any hospital, and I'm sorry for that a lot. Yes, one would feel relief if there would be some nice hospital at hand. So my other question, is there anything you would like to improve in your work? Thinking about that, is there anything that in midwifery could be done better? The midwives are healthcare providers, and in the same time the health insurance offices do not cover their care. So isn't that strange? Or if you could say to yourself, well, now I've got free hand, so I can plan what I can improve for myself, for my colleagues, etc. Well, the payment, as we started to speak about the insurance offices, when some years ago, I've been a part of the board of Czech Confederation of Midwives, and I was invited to regional administration office, and I've been there as a representative of educational institution and a representative of the professional organization. And I've been present at a situation when the midwife had presented an application for a contract with the health insurance office, and none of the healthcare insurance offices wanted to sign that contract. For instance, at one occasion, one day, the midwife presented the economic summary and also what strategies she would have in communication with gynecologists and her working plan and such. And the administration, the regional office, agreed to this contract. The education institution was positive to this contract, and the professional organization was also positive to that contract, but insurance offices did not want that. So because these institutions, like professional ones and education, have got only advisory voice, it's the right of the insurance offices not to sign the contract with the midwife. So that's a trouble, and there is one problematic item. Anything the insurance office, health insurance office would pay must be indicated by the doctor. Now, we have university-educated midwives, and still we have to be kind of obedient to another profession. It's not existing in any other field, and it's really a basic problem. So without indication, a midwife can't be paid. So the midwives are pushed to a situation where they have to ask the women for direct payment. And this is what I'm doing too. And I give the women receipt and I tell them, try to ask your health insurance office whether they would pay that. And a part of my activities is lactation advisor, breastfeeding advisor. But if I give them a receipt for payment for lactation consultancy, the insurance office would not pay for that because I am not I do not have a certificate from a course for doulas because I'm a midwife. So and I have taught like breastfeeding techniques and such at school, but because I do not have this certified course certificate, the insurance offices would not pay that. So it's really funny. And another thing, although I advise the women about their bodies, and although I prepare them for pregnancy and for birth, the insurance office would not pay for my service, for my work, because in my permission to work, the sportive activities, the sports, are not mentioned. And then I'm doing the prenatal classes. I'm teaching prenatal classes, and my prenatal classes are also not covered by the healthcare insurance. And the reason is that I'm not working in a hospital. The woman from insurance office told me that it's a kind of proof of quality if the midwife would be employed in the hospital. So then their courses are more quality than mine. Even the midwife would be like 2 years in practice, So, and in comparison with that, I've got 35 years of practice, and still, the clerk in the health insurance office would not consider my course's quality. So that's really funny. Okay, so I have one more question. Where can the parents find a midwife if they decide to be investing their money in a care of a healthcare provider who is not covered by the healthcare insurance? So where can they find a midwife? The most often case is that the happy mothers, the content mothers, would give information to their friends. Usually they come here for because of recommendation of their friend. But still, one has to have some portfolio and should introduce himself, or I have to introduce myself. And I got my website. I have information about me, about my lifestyle, and about my life attitudes and holistic medicine and such. And I've got my professional curriculum vitae there. And usually the fathers are interested in that because they need exact rational information. And I also have my publications mentioned there, so this works. And then there are groups of people in Facebook, and when the women are searching for a midwife, they just give the information one to another. And then UNIPA, the professional organization, has got a list of midwives, and you also can register and UNIPA, and a woman can search for you there. And I think it's not good to drive a long distance to assist a birth. So it's much better if a woman can search for her midwife in really close distance, like not more far than 50 minutes or 45 minutes. When I've been attending home births, it's never finished with the births. You have to see the mother at least twice or 3 times, and if you stay at the woman for 2, 3, 4 hours after the birth, then you have to drive 2 hours to your home and then 2 hours back. It's really bad. You can't have a good sleep, you can't write the documentation. So it's really much better it would be much better if the midwives would be represented in every region of our country, and it's not the case in our country yet. Well, it's a pity. It's a pity, really. So let's hope that the situation will improve, or let's hope that we will succeed in explaining the hospitals that it might be good to cooperate with the community midwives. Some maternity hospitals are doing some steps in this direction, but not all of them. Well, I would like to add that in my 35 years of practice, I see really a big improvement. 20 years ago, home birth was not spoken about, or midwives would not be allowed to accompany women to maternity hospitals. Really, there is a big change, but I really would wish the change to be quicker. Well, maybe you answered my question before I have posted. So anything else you would like to say, or did we speak about all the important items? Well, no, I don't think I would like to add anything else. I think it is important to speak about our situation. It's important to speak about the beauty of our profession, how important it is. And midwives have been here since ever, and I think will be forever. And their life has never been easy and will never be easy. And still, it's worth doing. And still, we love our work. And what to add more? I'm in practice for 40 years and still happy with that. Okay. So thank you very much and meet you again.